Well, happy Thursday. Bishop on air, and its final couple of days here with the live morning program before we exclusively stream at America's Talking Network on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because come Monday morning, we're only going to be on America's Talking Network with Illinois in Focus Daily as part of the Center Square. And next week, I'm going to be on the ground at the Republican National Convention. So a lot's going to be happening there. We'll bring you day-by-day updates, exclusive interviews, on-the-ground reporting. So very much looking forward to bringing that to you. But again, Bishop on air. If you want this live program, you're going to head over to America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because the date certain is Monday. This is going to be broadcasting on America's Talking Network. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell over there. And it's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and we got a lot to tackle. We'll talk about violence prevention money. We'll talk about a new bill that the governor signed impacting health insurance, and we'll also chat with State Representative John Cabello. So stay tuned. It's on the way here with Illinois in Focus Daily with Bishop on air. Getting ready to switch over, so make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to America's Talking Network. Back and forth about whether or not President Joe Biden should remain in the race continues, with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday sounding off on whether the president should step aside. And all indication is, at least publicly, they are saying that they are with the incumbent, while you've got an off the side, but a hot mic moment that the governor had. We'll share some of that with you as well. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being part of the program with America's Talking Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. So yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker held a couple of events. One, in the afternoon, he was celebrating the Reimagine Illinois Public Safety Act, which allows for more state tax dollars to go to violence intervention programs. And they talked about, these dollars, and we'll actually do a separate segment on this with Illinois in Focus Daily. But then they went and took some questions from members of the media. And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, he was asked not about the violence necessarily. We'll get to some of the response there. But in particular, he was asked about Biden and recent comments he made.
Well, what I've said was we're with them, right? There's only one person in this country who has ever defeated Donald Trump. And what I also said was the type of investments that we're making in the city of Chicago, the investments around mental health support, as I've said to him, we've reopened mental health clinics. We need more support. We're building affordable homes. I said I was going to do it, but we need more support to do it. And then I was very clear about our investment in youth employment and how that plays a part in providing safer communities. So that message came across, not just from me, but other places around the country.
So Johnson, not necessarily, he said that he's for Biden, but saying that Biden can beat Trump, but then talking about violence prevention. Governor J.B. Pritzker then took to the microphone and fielded questions, and he took the moment to discuss fundraising efforts for Biden, stories of lunch fundraisers being canceled around the Chicago Democratic National Convention in August, but Pritzker went on the attack against Trump.
Yeah, let's start with the fact that he would sign a ban on abortion that would affect everybody in the state of Illinois, not to mention the city of Chicago. He would also be bad for working families. He wants to put tariffs in place. You know what that'll do? Massive inflation. That's what Donald Trump is all about. And then, of course, when you put a convicted felon, a adjudicated rapist, a congenital liar in place, and someone who is seeking to take revenge on anybody that didn't support him, you know what that'll do to the city of Chicago.
Governor, do you expect to be targeted by a Department of Justice or other city officials?
I think Donald Trump will use every tool in the toolbox to go after people all across the country, and I'm talking about the people of the city of Chicago that didn't vote for him. And you know what? That's the biggest reason why he's going to lose. People understand that he's a vindictive, selfish, narcissistic person.
So if you didn't catch the question there, the governor was asked if he's worried that if Trump gets into office, that Trump would use the DOJ to target the likes of Pritzker, for instance. But Pritzker also asked about fundraising efforts and the stories that are being reported of fundraisers around the DNC being canceled.
Oh, I think everything's fluid right now, and I honestly think that the president's doing a fine job of raising money. You've seen all the money that they've raised online for the Biden-Harris campaign. I know of fundraisers that are ongoing, so any rumor that you may have heard about something like that, I think, is overblown.
Again, the questions about fundraisers and the support for Biden, all of this coming up, including a letter yesterday that was reported out of the New York Times, an essay from George Clooney saying that Biden needs to step down, and even George Clooney name-dropping J.B. Pritzker and other governors that may be interested in stepping up.
I think at the beginning, right after the debate, I thought it was very, very slow. I think now, more and more, he's been out there, he's talking to the public, he's talking to reporters. That's what we need him to do. And remember, he also went to the NATO summit, very important to represent the strength of the United States at the NATO summit, something, by the way, that Donald Trump wants to do away with, NATO. He wants us to withdraw, which frankly will just leave Europe open to Vladimir Putin and whatever he may want to do after he overtakes Ukraine when Donald Trump is president. That's why we have to defeat Donald Trump.
So again, so some of the questions of how exactly you can turn these questions around to then focus on your opponents, and it's a masterclass of sorts, especially in this election cycle, on the spin and the pivots and all of that. So with Illinois in Focus Daily, of course, we've been tracking this, and we'll continue to track it all the way throughout the nomination process. But yesterday also, it was reported that Pritzker, around a hot mic, had shared some of his thoughts on the state of the presidential race. Here's Marianne Ahern, a reporter for NBC out of Chicago, on X, posting this hot mic moment of the governor talking with somebody.
I mean, we're just going to keep fighting. I don't know what to say. I gotta do what we have to do. I don't like where we are, but I need you to get him some new glasses.
I don't like where we are, he says, in response to where we're at with the presidential race, according to further reporting on those comments. So that's a little bit of an update here as to where we're at in the status of this particular presidential election and the leaders in Illinois, Democrat-dominated states, and we'll obviously be bringing you more of that as we do on-the-ground reporting at not just the Republican National Convention next week, but also the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning for updates on what you need to know here in the land of Lincoln. A new measure in law has some reforms coming for the health insurance industry in the state of Illinois. Governor J.B. Pritzker signing a bill yesterday that he advocated for in his State of the State speech, and it brings about reforms to health insurance. Things like getting rid of pre-authorization, getting rid of step therapy, allowing for insurance to give more money to those seeking emergency mental health services. So a variety of things in this measure, and it was a bipartisan measure. You had even some insurance groups saying that some of these things could be workable, but all of this obviously coming at a cost to taxpayers, and those taxpayer costs we'll touch on here in a moment. But again, yesterday the governor in Chicago signing the Healthcare Protection Act, and does a whole host of things. Some of them kick in January 1st of 2025. So what exactly does this do? Again, it gets rid of step therapy, it gets rid of pre-authorization, but only for Illinois managed health care insurance policies. And these particular policies, for instance, really are those that have insurance for state government workers and public sector workers, the like, that have insurance policies regulated by the state of Illinois. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker and Senate President Don Harmon yesterday talking about this particular bill.
For thousands of Illinoisans, the reforms in this bill will mean the difference between, suffering with curable health conditions and getting the care that they need in a timely manner. And for some, this bill will quite literally save their lives.
Today's bill signing is the culmination of a massive effort on the part of our colleagues, Governor Pritzker, and advocates. A massive effort to put into law something that seems like it should be common sense. Health insurance companies should be focused on making people healthy. But somewhere along the line, priorities got out of whack. Instead of helping patients find the best care for their individual needs, the focus too often shifted to maximizing profit.
So the bipartisan bill passed, but not without substantial questions. And it was brought up in the House earlier in session, and it was discussed, and even the costs were raised as an issue. State Representative Ryan Spain, a Republican from Peoria, asked the bill's sponsor, Anna Moeller, a Democrat from Elgin, I believe, who sponsored the bill, and she answered the questions of how much this costs, but also, does this impact the health insurance for immigrant adults and health insurance for immigrant seniors, the health benefits programs, HBIS and HBIA. And this is the hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies going to pay for the health insurance of non-citizens in the state of Illinois. Here's some of that back and forth in the House.
And so I wanted to clarify your legislative intent. And my question to you is, does this bill make any changes to the benefits of the HBIA or HBIS programs?
No, this bill does not affect those programs at all.
Does this bill have any bearing whatsoever on either of those programs?
No, this bill affects the Medicaid program, but as you know, those are Medicaid lookalike programs and therefore do not affect the program offerings or details of those plans.
And you can tell how important this measure was to Governor J.B. Pritzker, because you see him there in the House chamber during debate, looking on at the sponsor, and there he is right there, looking on to the sponsor as the debate happened when this passed the House the first time. But it had to go to the Senate as well. But before that, there were questions about the costs. State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer in the House raised those concerns about how much this is going to cost taxpayers, especially with the insurance being regulated, that type of insurance being had by state employees.
I want to reiterate the concerns that I have that, as you said, the HBIA and HBIS, the programs for non-citizens that are here, you said those mimic Medicaid,
They're
but-
not connected.
but
They're a
would not be
Medicaid-
covered by this.
Correct. They're a Medicaid lookalike program.
Okay.
So they're-
I still have concerns that it could be, because I think sometimes we try to stretch that within our department, so I certainly have concerns about that. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a large increase to the state of Illinois. I think it's going to be an increased cost to taxpayers, because the majority of our taxpayers will not be covered by this. And with those concerns, along with the illegal immigrant population, I want to say I will be a no on this. So I do appreciate your work.
So again, passed the House, and there was bipartisan support, and then it went into the Illinois Senate, where State Senator Dave Severson asked State Senator Robert Peters how much this is going to cost taxpayers.
What's the estimated cost for implementing this plan on working families in Illinois?
Senator Peters.
The estimation from the governor's office is 50 to 60 million.
Senator Severson.
Okay. And what was the cost estimate from the industry? Do you remember what that one was?
Senator Peters.
We did not get a cost estimate from the industry. I would like to add that the industry has removed their opposition from this bill. I would just like that to be noted in the record.
Senator Severson.
Thank you. Well, I'm not sure if they didn't have much of a choice, but...
So again, the Democratic supermajority, with some support from Republicans, passing this measure out of both chambers as amended in the Senate and then out of the House, where the governor then signed this yesterday with an estimated taxpayer cost of upwards to $60. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network for Illinois in Focus Daily. Of millions of dollars of tax money going for violence intervention programs in Chicago and elsewhere throughout the states. But of course, with headlines out of Chicago just over the Independence Day holiday weekend, 100 shot, 19 killed. That on top of the Father's Day violence, and we have yet to even get through the bulk part of summer. There's a lot of concern about increased violence. But how are your tax dollars being used? And is it the appropriate use of those tax dollars? We're going to get reaction from Republican State Representative John Cabello in moments, but I wanted to share with you some of what Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and also Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say yesterday at an event talking about the Reimagine Public Safety Act and celebrating more tax dollars going to these types of violence intervention programs. So here is, with Illinois in Focus Daily, part of America's Talking Network and the Center Square, here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday talking about city spending of tax dollars to battle violence.
First of all, the investments that I've made is what the government has to do. We put $100 million specifically around violence prevention, but this also includes making sure that we're hiring more detectives. We're doing that. But the philanthropic community, business community stepping up to add more support to this work is critical. It's really about relationships.
So again, talking about $100 million from the city, but also yesterday it was announced that there was millions from private dollars going to help out with these efforts to, build violence intervention programs. And the mayor talking about the need for people who are known in the community to be out in the community to try to intervene in violence.
In many instances, you have not just conflicts, with opposing street organizations or gangs. Sometimes there's dispute internally, and you have domestic violence that exists as well. That's why I provided a holistic approach towards violence prevention. It's not just simply about what gets in the headlines, right? So it's really about relationship building. It's also about connecting to resources.
And don't forget, earlier this week, Mayor Johnson, after that violent weekend, he blamed Republicans who support the gun industry. He blamed even Richard Nixon for what he said was disinvestment in communities and harming civil rights. But the Nixon Foundation came out countering that, showing that Nixon actually approved a lot more money for civil rights efforts. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday asked about violence intervention, and he also shifted blame to Republicans.
It's frustrating, let me just say, and people are frustrated all across the country. Chicago's not the only city that suffers from violent crime. We have a particular problem that we know that we're always working to overcome. But if we had not put the dollars out there and supported community violence interrupters and rebuilt the infrastructure, because it got decimated by the Republicans, if we hadn't rebuilt it, the problem would be much worse today. We are making progress.
So again, the governor saying that it was Republicans who decimated funding for violence intervention. He reiterated that, answering another question.
Yeah, so let's remember that when Republicans defund programs like the ones that we're talking about in this room, the community violence interruption programs, which is what Republicans did, you end up with, and the study from Northwestern shows it about Illinois, you end up with more violent crime. It's Republicans that have caused this problem, and Republicans don't want to deal with it. They say they're the party of law and order, but the leader of their party is a convicted felon.
So to get reaction to this, we now connect with State Representative John Cabello, who is also in law enforcement and somebody who can bring a unique perspective to all of this. So Representative, your reaction first off here to the idea that it's the Republicans. I'm guessing that he's talking about former Governor Bruce Rauner pulling back some of those violence intervention funds. First off, your reaction to the blame seeming going to Republicans, and second off, are these types of dollars effective? Representative, hold on one second. I apologize. Now you're live. Go ahead.
Thank you. To blame Republicans that are in the super minority of causing these issues. I mean, how long has the governor been the governor? He's been here for quite some time. And the mayor has been here long enough now as well. And there hasn't been a Republican that's running the city of Chicago ever, I believe. So, if you're going to be a leader, at least lead and take the blame when the blame is squarely on your lap. Honestly, when I heard you say that, I thought they're insane. Maybe the governor or maybe the mayor of Chicago is going to check himself into the hospital again. It's insane. Now, some of these programs are very good. Some of them are very good, but there's got to be some sort of measure, some checks and balances. We have to know where the money's going. We have to see the results. If they don't check mark all of the checks and balances that the General Assembly needs and wants, then we need to make sure that those programs are cut out so we can put more money into the programs that do work.
Representative, when I first started reporting on the State House, it was right at the tail end of the Quinn administration, and there was a big controversy about the Neighborhood Recovery Initiative. Not sure how familiar you are with that history, but from my understanding, and again, it's been a bit since I've reviewed it, but these were public dollars going to help out nonprofit groups, and there was questions about individuals getting six-figure salaries. There were questions about the money possibly, assisting in political motivations, especially heading into election. We're in another election year here, and the governor's got $180 million in this budget to help with violence intervention. Do you worry that we could run into similar types of situations if we don't have that real review and thorough understanding of how these dollars are being spent?
Absolutely. And I think, I came in obviously at the end of Quinn's administration too in 2012. So we kind of started around the same time down there. But yeah, there was mass spending on these programs that it was almost like a slush fund where nobody knew where the dollars were going. Nobody knew what they were being spent on. And that's not what you should be doing with taxpayers' dollars. So I think now with the oversight that we do in public safety approach, I'm the spokesperson on that. Rita Mayfield is the chair. We actually have a very good working relationship, and we're holding these folks accountable as to where every penny is going, because we can't have public dollars just being used as a slush fund and being put all over the place and nobody knowing where it's going, what it's doing, and how it's being spent.
Representative John Cabello with us here. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network and the Center Square. And Representative, you're in law enforcement. Your thoughts on Superintendent Larry Snelling saying, hey, we need to prosecute these people, get them off the streets. Is that being done? And do you foresee that possibly changing with the switch over in state's attorney in Cook County?
So I agree with him wholeheartedly. And if we're gonna have the governor and we're gonna have the mayor of Chicago blaming the Republicans, then I'm going to lie the blame exactly where it lands for the crime problem that we have right now on J.B. Pritzker. He's unleashed 64 murderers early from prison. He signed the Safety Act, which decimated law enforcement, which has pulled law enforcement back because they're afraid to do the job that they're supposed to be doing, because if they make one mistake, they may lose their job. They may even end up in prison. So, it's just what they have done to law enforcement is crazy. It doesn't really protect anybody. In fact, I think it makes people unsafe. So it shouldn't be called the Safety Act because it doesn't save anybody. I'm looking forward to a new Cook County State's Attorney because the one that's there is absolutely horrible. I've had her in some of the committees that I sit on, and she's a defense attorney. She's not a prosecuting attorney. She is more of a defense attorney trying to make sure that everybody's going free compared to prosecuting the people that need to be prosecuted. So I look forward to her exit and hope that the new state's attorney that's going to be elected will actually do their job and put people that deserve to be in prison, that deserve to be charged, because what we're doing now is we're putting the good folks of the state of Illinois in jeopardy by not putting people in jail. Now, everybody doesn't need to be in jail, but there are some really bad people in the state of Illinois. And we must prosecute the people that are committing the violent crimes, that are committing the forcible felonies, that are committing bank robberies, and so on and so forth. And not just saying, oh, you had a bad day today, we'll let you out today.
State Representative John Cabello, greatly appreciate you taking the time. I do have to take a break here. Can I keep you over for like 5 more minutes just to talk some politics?
Only for you.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate that. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell each and every weekday morning here with updates on how you can start your day knowing what to know here with the land of Lincoln. Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network. Next week, Illinois in Focus Daily will be on the ground at the Republican National Convention. Looking forward to seeing how that plays out. And of course, with the eye on the Democratic National Convention in August, we anticipate being on the ground there as well. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for daily updates from Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network. Continuing a conversation from the previous segment with State Representative John Cabello. Representative, you are a Trump delegate. So I want to get your take on what you expect to happen and how important this convention is heading into November, not just for the top of the ticket, but even down in the lower parts of the ticket, like state representative, for instance.
Important. I have been with Trump and the Trump folks since 2016, where I was the co-chair of the campaign here in the state of Illinois. Delegate all 3 times that he's run. So I'm looking forward to a very positive message from the president when he accepts the nomination. I'm looking forward to who the VP is going to be. I mean, we can all speculate, but none of us know. We can try to make that educated guess, and then the former president may throw a curveball at you. But a positive message on how we are going to move this country forward for the future is what I'm looking for, hoping to hear, and I think that I will hear. It's always a great show when President Trump is up there speaking. So I think it's going to be a good time, especially right now with the Democrats being in complete chaos with whether President Biden is going to be their nominee now or if it's going to be somebody else. So I think it's going to be an interesting week because we're hearing that Biden will be out maybe possibly by Monday.
Representative, Illinois, obviously, Republicans are in the super minority. What, if any, impact do you think Trump being on the ballot will have for the prospects of Republicans gaining any ground in the state of Illinois?
Well, if you look at the numbers, and, we haven't seen a ton of numbers here in the state of Illinois yet, but numbers around the country in different places, especially Democratic areas, you're seeing more and more folks moving over to the Trump side of the vote, which would then help down the ballot. I think the Democrats have really misstepped here by going so far left that they've lost a lot of their longtime voting Democrats. So I think it's going to be a very interesting race to watch. Obviously, our state, we have different dynamics. We have different dynamics in towards the suburbs to down south. So Trump is definitely going to help people outside of the populated areas of Chicago and in towards your neck of the woods down by St. Louis. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic. You can't run campaigns the same way in Southern Illinois as you do in the suburbs. So we're going to have to make sure and help all of our folks and make sure the messaging is correct for all of them.
Now, in Illinois, obviously, Republicans have the organization, and you've got the chairman, Don Tracy, having announced he's going to be stepping down. Do you intend to seek that position on an interim basis or on a permanent basis? Can you address some of the speculation out there?
Sure, there's no more speculation. I turned in my application yesterday by the 5 p.m. deadline. I am looking at only an interim spot to get us through the convention and through the election. As talking to many of the board members for the State Central Committee folks, a lot of folks think this is a rush process, but it is. And the reason why it's a rush process is because we have to have a chairman in place for the convention because there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be signed once the president accepts the nomination. You got to do a bunch of paperwork. But being from 2015 to 2016, I was the chair of HRO, House Republican Organizations, that oversaw every single House race in the state. So, I know how to manage. I know how to make sure that we keep the train on the tracks and moving in the right direction, while the State Central Committee then has the time to slow this process down, find the right person. Because we need the right person to lead us into the future. We're going to try to build a foundation to make sure that future is starting to be built. And then we'll hand over the keys and say, here you go. We hope we left the ship in a better place for you and help that next person who's going to stay for quite some time.
Do you have any thoughts on who that next person should be after your possible interim leadership?
That is not my decision. That is the decision of the State Central Committee folks. So, again, I just looking at trying to help manage from the time that this next chair or interim chair is taking over until they have the time to do that search to make sure and get the right person. I mean, I don't know who it is, and it's not my decision. I'm not a State Central Committeeman.
And then, Representative, if you could, I know you and I have talked about this before, but even in the live chat this morning, people raising the vote that you took about non-citizens given a pathway to become police officers. You and I have talked about this in the past, and people can find that article at thecentersquare.com. But I guess just talk about that, because after that vote, well, was that 2 years ago? I can't even remember when that was.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
You did find impacting this particular issue, but that hasn't advanced. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so the bill does not allow any illegals or non-citizens to be police officers. What we did is we codified federal law. Federal law, there's an ATF law that states that no non-citizen or illegal can possess a weapon, which means a law enforcement officer, you have a weapon, you're possessing it. You can't do it until federal law changes. Federal law isn't going to change. I don't see this coming up in my lifetime. So what I think we did is a very good thing by codifying that federal law into the bill. And even the bill sponsor said, well, now this bill is strictly symbolic. So as far as I know, there is no illegal or non-citizen that's a police officer in the state of Illinois today. We have some pretty liberal cities. I'm sure we would have had some if that's what could really happen.
Representative John Cabello, greatly appreciate you taking the time. We will see you next week on the ground in Milwaukee. So let's connect there, and we'll have more conversations, all right?
Look forward to it. Thanks so much.
All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Thanks again to State Representative John Cabello for sticking around for 2 segments. So be sure if you missed the other one, go check that out. It is Illinois in Focus Daily here with the Center Square and America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you here tomorrow live with America's Talking Network. Guys, that's all I got for you today. With Bishop on air, getting ready to sign off, and don't forget, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell at America's Talking Network. And Monday is the day we're officially switching over, so you won't find this daily program with Bishop on air. You'll find it at America's Talking Network, and really appreciate all the support. We're going to continue doing stuff with Bishop on air, so obviously if you see a notification come up, check out the video. But America's Talking Network is where you're going to get Illinois in Focus daily, every weekday morning here with me, Greg Bishop, giving you all the headlines you need to know. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. All right, next week's going to be pretty intense, so hopefully you guys join me. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air on X, on Facebook, here on YouTube, but obviously America's Talking Network, where you'll get that daily program, Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, got a ton to get ready for next week. I got the suit ready, got some blazers, and getting the stuff scheduled. Oh, it's a whole ordeal, I tell you what, but thumbs up. Guys, appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here each and every weekday morning. Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. You guys are great. We'll see you soon.
So